Hi, and welcome to this overview of RetentionCX. I am Joseph Loria, founder and CEO. I built RetentionCX after 20 years in 5 separate startups and scale-ups as the executive in charge of the post-sale experience and as the owner of net revenue retention. Let's dig in. The truth is, customer experience and subscription experience specifically is nascent. It hasn't been that long. You can go back to the 90s and find an experience that was sort of non-existent, right? You got something and you bought something, you got something. And if you needed help, you would call a customer service line. Eventually, as software got more configurable, you had a bit of a customer experience in the beginning through services, but past that, you would call support. So when we get to the 2010s and subscription enters the fray, there was a bit of a gap, right? Because leaving the experience to initial professional services or an inbound call into support leaves a lot to be desired. And if you need a customer to stay for 2 or 3 years to even make money, we have to insert another discipline into the equation, right? One responsible for ensuring the customer sees value and therefore renews and stays. That's called customer success. But it got a little confusing past 2010 as to what customer success actually was supposed to be. Supposed to be an additive discipline to services, onboarding, support, but it eventually became synonymous with the post-sale experience. So a bit of confusion ensued. We're at the point now we really need to be talking about the customer experience and talking about those disciplines as a seamless customer experience the customer goes through. So in startups, right, the truth is there's a lot of failure, right? The reasons for failure are often fairly well known. And having been at multiple startups and had a lot of colleagues at startups, a lot of those reasons get well addressed through a focus on product and product market fit and go to market and sales motion, which is, do we have a good business plan? Is the timing right? Do we have a sales mindset? Those things tend to get a high amount of focus. What gets less focus in earlier stage companies, often due to the makeup of the founding team, is a focus on scaling not too early and not too late, but at exactly the right time as you go, so that you sort of optimize the funding that you have to not run out of cash and to be able to be in a position of strength for the next raise. Truth is, most founding teams don't have that sort of operator mindset in the business. So they really need to go acquire it. And that gets a lot less focus often than other parts of the business do. And so what is a fair question, right? But post-sale experience and customer experience has a phenomenal impact on valuation. Let's look at an example. 2 companies, both starting at 1 million in recurring revenue, all else the same except for net revenue retention. One business is at 85% net, the other at 105% net. If you ratchet these forward 5 years, you see a 230% difference in revenue. So second company is 2.3 times larger than the other company, but that's not where the story ends. The truth is the valuation on that latter company is going to be much higher due to the NRR numbers. They will get a higher multiple on revenue or sales, and therefore the valuation is going to be significantly larger. Maybe it's a 5x difference between those 2 companies. The way to think about that is to think about 1% of net revenue retention being worth 18% on valuation. So if I can eke NRR up 5%, I can double the value of the business. So the only thing that has an impact on net revenue retention past product market fit, right, which is sort of a base level necessity. Past product market fit, the only thing that drives NRR is a customer experience, intended and designed to do that. Now, measuring CX is super easy. You've got some lag measures, you've got some lead measures. The lag measures are things you're probably measuring around gross and net revenue retention. The predictive measures needed have to do with time to value. How quickly do they see value from this in the very beginning? Past that, what does adoption look like? Do they really use, utilize, adopt this offering that we're giving them? And then if they do that, can we measure how healthy the relationship is between us and the customer? Those predictive things lead to the results at the bottom, but we need to have both. Measuring these things, regardless of the business, is actually fairly easy. What's a lot harder is ensuring that all this results in actual business value. And business value is hard for the following reason, because most companies stay at a foundational level in regards to how they handle the post-sale experience. There is this thought that we simply need to get them configured, set up, and trained, and the offering, the product, the service will take root, and magic will happen inside of customer business. The truth is that usage has to result in actual business process change. And when those business processes change, there better be a KPI or a measurement that shows how much better that business process is, because that KPI change is what someone who has the budget and resource authority will recognize as actual value. And if you don't actively manage this whole chain, your outcome is random and unpredictable, right? If we need to predict the outcome, we need to manage this chain, because if we can get value realization to happen, we can get a customer to stay, renew, buy more, refer more. Now, before we get into what you do about this, let's talk about some of the symptoms. If you have a customer experience that's struggling, sure, it will eventually manifest in the numbers, but a lot of times, symptomatically, things show up earlier than that. And the earlier symptoms you'll see are, number one, onboarding just takes a long time, right? It's not actively managed in a way that gets people up and running quickly. And so it tends to take too long. And even if it doesn't take long all the time, we have key customers where it does take too long. Number two, churn should never, ever be a surprise. There might be one exception to that rule, but let's just say the rule is churn is never a surprise. It can't be. You should know it's coming. So if churn is a surprise, that's a symptom of an issue. If you've got customers that stay and they've stayed a long time, but they don't buy more, maybe they've forgotten about the product, right? Maybe they don't really understand the value. Like not buying more by not seeing more value is indicative of an issue. If you don't know the objective health of your top customers, that's a problem. And if you can't accurately forecast retention and even upsell and expansion, if you can't accurately forecast GRR and NRR quarter over quarter, that's a symptom of an issue. Now, the question is, what do you do about that? And so here's what you do. It's a simple 5 competency framework. It works in every single business I've been in. I've put this in 15 customers with amazing results, all the way from a company doing $1 million to a company doing $25 million in recurring revenue. And this simple framework will solve 90% of the issues you have. Number one is onboarding. We have to show them short time to value. We have to know the use case or the use cases that are most critical out of the gate, and we have to nail those every single time in a short window. If we do that, we earn the right to the rest of the relationship. So past that, once they're onboarded and it worked, we get prescriptive with them. We have to be prescriptive and authoritative and dictate what success looks like and hold them accountable to success. We have to have a methodology we run that does that, and we take no exceptions to that. Because if we can have a prescriptive methodology, we can match our offerings and products and features and services to that customer journey and make upsell and expansion simple, not necessarily requiring sales motions. Sure, you're going to need account management at some point, but in the early days, you really don't. If you make it a natural part of how you engage with customers and you make it about value, not about upsell or sales or selling features or any of that stuff. Customers don't want to be sold to. Past that, there are 2 competencies that are foundational. One is tech and data, and tech and data really has to be about automation, because customers are complex ecosystems. And if we don't prioritize work for people in terms of risk and opportunity and have the rest mundane stuff done for them, we're not going to make progress. So tech really needs to focus on automation. And the last thing is role clarity is an issue in post-sale. It's true in most companies I've worked with. It's true in most companies I was in, and I know a lot of colleagues and stuff where it's still an issue. There is confusion about the different disciplines in the post-sale experience. what their disciplines do, how they're measured, what customer success is. And the truth is, people don't like to be jack of all trades. They like to know what their role is. They like to feel well skilled to accomplish it. They like the work to be aggressive. They like to know they can win. They like to know they can contribute. We have to structure roles in a way that keep them highly engaged, because the productivity gains we can get from that are astronomical, right? This is knowledge work. We're not bound and constrained in our work. So we can gain a lot from getting employees engaged in the right way. If you do all of this, the result is like I can have a heat map of my customers. I can have customers, revenue, a score, and then specific elements where the score is either high or low. So back to that, how do I give someone the knowledge to know where the risk and opportunity is? It's by health scoring. And this is what that looks like. So imagine having a dashboard, a heat map of your customer base and knowing exactly where the smoldering potential fires are and knowing exactly where to go hunt for opportunity, right? That's how this scales. This is how you do more with less. And this is how this becomes not a bodies game, but because you can dynamically assign resourcing based on this kind of criteria. A couple of quick stories. One bootstrap company I worked with, guy built the company by himself, got to 4 million recurring revenue, and then went top line flat. And I got engaged. We put the framework in. There's a huge focus on time to value and prescriptive methodology and role clarity and employee engagement at the end. And the result is 26% top line growth, 34% net growth, an extra 10 million enterprise value added to this business. The payback and the ROI, astronomical. Investing in CX has outsized returns if you do it right. The other was a startup I was involved in where the original business, we divested it. We used the funds to start a new business. And we ran that for 5 years, got to hundreds of customers and millions in revenue. And I built that CX from scratch and built it using the framework and generated some amazing net revenue retention numbers because of that natural upsell motion. And this garnered a 10x exit on sale, which was in 21, right after the pandemic. So not necessarily the best time to sell a business, but despite that, we got a 10x multiple on that. So this is the impact that a focus on CX and the right CX focus can have. I work in a real simple way. That framework I showed you, that 5 competency framework, that's what people are buying. I'm not doing projects and statements of work and weird stuff. It's like you're going to get the framework. And the way we do that is we'll do an assessment across those competencies to see exactly where there's weakness and areas for improvement. We do that analysis and then we'll define the focus together and then we'll execute on that. And when that part of the business is running well, we'll go to the next competency and do it again. And how we do that is real simple. The framework doesn't change, but how we engage can depend on really the phase of company, the size of teams, and that kind of stuff. On one end, if there's 1 or 2 people that need coaching and those people can get this implemented in the business, then we'll do the advisor package. If there's no leader and there's 5 or 10 people doing work and you really need somebody to just run the team, then the partner thing makes more sense. If there's a team of people with a couple of good leaders in, and we really just need to enable the team, that's the sort of middle of the road catalyst offering. Real simple ways to engage. These are all retainer agreements. And what we're doing is just modifying the time and the people we work with to make it the most effective for your business and where your business is. If you have any questions about this, please reach out. I appreciate your time and attention to this. And questions, let me know. We'll talk soon. Thanks.